evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely impossible season. This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakely will dive to the inside.
We were robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead. Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
And here we are. Welcome everyone, and a very good evening here to PSGL PCF4 Season 42, where it's time for Round 8 in Belgium, the legendary Spa-Francorchamps, where tonight we might see a champion crowned, or the championship will be prolonged until at least next week. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky, and I'm joined in the comms box with Josh. Welcome, Josh.
Hello, doing very well here today. Looking forward to some good racing here at one of the oldest tracks on the F1 calendar. And should be a good one as well. Plenty of overtaking opportunities, lots of places you can go side by side as well. And a bit of a mix up with the setup, maybe aiming towards slightly higher wings for that middle sector or going for the low wings for the two very long straights.
Yes, indeed. But before we give you more of a preview of tonight's race, we're going to take a little bit of a recap of the race last week out in Singapore, which was quite hectic with that little bit of rain that we got towards the end of the session. Of course, the rain that we also saw in qualifying. It was Tom Wolfgram who got his first race win of the season, also propelled him to, well, realistically, virtually second in the championship with the three drivers that have been promoted. So he's done very well there. He's now 26 points down on championship leader Ryan Jacobs, who in turn still needs to get 4 points to pip the promoted drivers. But there was a penalty handed out to Bennett Hayter for the contact that he had with one of his competitors, which has dropped him from, I believe, 6th to 11. So outside of points, he otherwise would be on 30 points in the championship. He is now on 25, meaning that he is no longer virtually second, but fourth in the championship. So a couple of things changed. I'll give you the full standings now as well, so you can take a look at it with me. Here you have them in full. So Oliver Nutt still is your championship leader, but he's been promoted to F3 as of last round. So after tonight, I think we can see Ryan Jacobs as your new championship leader. He's realistically has the highest chance to claim the championship. He's got a 26-point lead over Tom Wolfgram. One of few drivers that can still catch up with him, along with Takubi Bennett Hayter. Not Marziano, he will not be driving tonight, so he is effectively out of the championship. The drivers behind him, still mathematically possible, of course, have to outscore him by at least quite a bit, because if you're down more than 34 points, Josh, you will be out of the championship as of tonight.
Yeah, will be an interesting one, of course, to see how things do play out, but relatively straightforward. All things considered, P3 would be enough, I believe, if my math is correct, for the championship to be secured, or it might be P2 to be completely certain. But yeah, I think all things considered, championship P1 pretty much wrapped up. But we still have 3 races of action still to come, of course, and those results not to be discounted, even if they aren't exclusively for championship glory. And will our race going to be starting very, very soon tonight? I think going to be an exciting one.
Will be an exciting one indeed. And yeah, in terms of the championship, we know now that Ryan Jacobs has a 26-point lead. After tonight, he needs to have more than 34 points in order to already claim the championship. So he needs to outscore Tom Wolfgram by 9 or more points. So at minimum, a 3rd place will be needed for that. If he can do better, then he can secure tonight. Otherwise, he will have to try his luck again next week when we go to Abu Dhabi. But in the meantime, we're going into the lobby for our qualifying session in Spa. We have 20 drivers on the grid, so it's nice to see such a stacked grid. F4 has done very well in that all the way throughout the season. And Josh, what do you think quality is going to bring us?
I mean, it's going to be a tough one. I think with how long this circuit is, it's about 1 minute and 40 seconds. The gaps are going to be a bit bigger than we usually see, but I think it's a circuit where you can naturally have more mistakes as well. I think it's very tough to call how this one's going to go.
Well, we'll see how well the drivers can do indeed. For Ryan, it's been a tough one to claim pole positions as well as race wins. He does not have a race win just yet, which is a bit odd for a championship leader. Of course, Tom Wolfgram managed to get his maiden win last week out. Looks a little bit cloudy up ahead by the looks of it. But for now, I think the drivers will still come out on softs. Whether we're going to get any rain later on the session is anyone's guess. Just taking a look at our reserve drivers. I believe Aizen is a new face. And I'm not sure if Pesci has driven before, but I think we have, at least if we have stand-ins, only a max of 2, Josh.
Yeah, but yeah, going to be an exciting one. Quite a few familiar names, of course, here in this session, and a couple drivers now making their way out onto the track here. As you said, pretty overcast. I mean, we might see some rain, although given we haven't had too many drivers rushing out immediately, or about a minute into this qualifying session, only 6 drivers so far out onto the track. I'd say we're probably in for at least a dry start to this qualifying session. How things are fully going to play out, though, anybody's guess.
Yeah, indeed, still looks to be quite clear. I'm just going on board. It's a little bit cloudy, but I don't see a lot of rain clouds. They're a little bit in the distance, but not at least anywhere close to the track. We do see quite a few drivers already exiting pit lane, but not, as Josh mentioned, in a hectic way. So I don't think the rain is at least anywhere near close. That's going to impact our first, maybe even our second runs. But we'll keep an eye on the weather situation, and when that changes, of course, you will be the first to see it alongside with us, and it will make these first couple of laps even more important than what is yet to come. As it looks for Inversizo, at least, he seems to be pushing it quite a bit, so he wants to get this qualifying session underway.
Yeah, that might also just be to keep the tyre temperatures quite high. You've got a long run here down towards the bus stop chicane, so making sure you have your tyre temperatures ready as you make your way through Curve Pool Frere, coming towards the end of the middle sector. You've got to kind of have the tyre up to temperature at that point, because there's not much opportunity really to build that core tyre temperature. And then as you're heading into this braking zone, just setting that lap up, come all the way over to the right hand side, build onto the throttle, put the battery on, open up the DRS to get the lap underway here, and making his way in towards turn 1, braking out the 100-meter board, gets it turned in quite nicely onto the power now, and a very, very long run, one of the longest flat-out sections of an F1 track as you make your way into Eau Rouge for the first time. Up Radion we go, using that battery, trying to build up some speed here. DRS will open up in just a second as you make your way through the kink of the Camel Straight and heading towards the end of the first sector. A decent start to the lap so far for the Alpine.
Yeah, with that first sector time of 30.1 as he now makes his way through Le Combe and into Malmedy in that tricky middle sector. Especially here, braking downhill into Bruxelles Rivage is one of the toughest corners here in Spa. We see that there's a little bit of a squabble as he comes out of that corner. Now making his way through one of the nicest corners, almost fully flat out left-hander, 7th gear in most cases, as he's now going to approach the right left-hander. And then he's almost towards the end of the second sector, approaching Stavolo here to the right. And then just before Curve Paul Frere, he will be ending that middle sector with a 13.2 in our sector time that we'll be keeping an eye on. And now will be making his way towards the bus stop chicane for him to end off his lap. And then we'll finally get to know what lap time there is to beat here tonight.
Yep, hitting the brakes now for the Alpine driver. Initially, of course, was purple in the first 2 sectors. A couple drivers have gone a bit faster in each of the sectors, but should be a decent start to the session. For Inversizo, 40.623 to set the benchmark. Next going to be the Haas of Silly Sly Guy. who comes across the line now, and he sets a 40.9. Couldn't quite beat him there. Dennis Kamensky across the line, purple in the middle sector, purple in the final sector, 40.5 for the Red Bull driver. The other Haas of Frankek Zhizorny comes across the line in P4 with a 40.9 to his name as well.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to catch any of the drivers just coming through as we see DeMico now hitting his benchmark with a 40.8 in 4th place, say 5th place as he's been dropped down a little bit. I want to see how our championship leader Ryan Jacobs is doing. He's done a middle sector of a 113.1, so it's about 2/10 quicker than we saw in Versizo though, so he should be on for at least a provisional pole for a time being. If he can keep it clean throughout the final sector, it should be a 40.4 as he now makes his way through the bus stop chicane. To the line he goes, Ryan Jacobs. His first lap time is indeed a 40.4 and he moves to the top of the timing table. Now I know that Bennett Hayter, his main competitor, is also still in there. He's about half a ton slower than Ryan Jacobs in that middle sector, but should still place himself in right between Ryan and Aizen if he does well in that final sector, and he comes just short in 3rd place. That means that we have just a couple of drivers left. Giovanni Galeotto has invalidated and Josh Rothwell comes through in P3, which means that after our first runs, it's Ryan Jacobs leading the pack.
Yeah, in the purple final sector for Ryan Jacobs, finding quite a few tenths compared to quite a few of the other drivers. I definitely think that battery usage around here is going to vary a lot by between the drivers. You can use a lot in this first sector, try and gain some speed down the Kemmel Straight, or you can save it for that final sector for the run down towards the bus stop. And I think that's why we're seeing such different times in the final sector. Ryan Jacobs, I think, over 3/10 faster than Josh Rothwell, who had the purple first sector. I haven't actually seen who has the purple middle sector at the moment, but you don't use too much battery through there. Most of that is purely down to the driving and also down to the wings as well. Maybe people running slightly higher wings, trying to help themselves in the dirty air in the race and also in the middle sector, trying to stay together. Because, of course, when everybody has that DRS tucked up in the slipstream, it's naturally going to be difficult to overtake anyway. And a lot of the drivers happy just to take a little bit more downforce, improve themselves in the corners. So that might be able to make the difference, give them a better exit. They'll have better tyres throughout the race as well, and that might be enough to give them an opportunity for an overtake.
Yeah, and sorry for the little couple seconds of black screen. Given the comments that we got in the YouTube chat, I tuned up Josh a little bit so he's a bit more audible and you should understand him much better. Let us know if this is good or if we need to tweak that a little bit further. Now, in the meantime, it looks like all the drivers are heading into pit lane. I do think Pesci is about to leave his garage box, or was it his teammate coming in? I think it was rather his teammate coming in. So for a time being, everyone is in pit lane or going towards pit lane. Just Josh Rothwell and Bennett Hayter still out there on track. And yeah, with no rushing that we see anywhere on track, Josh, I think we don't have to worry that much about the weather after all.
Yeah, I think for the most part this qualifying session going to be nice and dry. Once we do head towards the race, so of course things could change. Spa is a track where we do see a lot of weather coming into play. Invasizo, Silly Sly Guy, once again the first two to head out. They were the first out on the first run, so the first out for the second runs here as well. Invasizo just heading past the Haas driver on the way in towards Eau Rouge. And getting ready to get the second runs underway. There is just enough time to get 3 runs here in a short qualifying session. You've got about a minute or two to spare, I think. So the drivers who have waited around a little bit longer should still be perfectly fine to get all of their runs in. Mainly going to be an issue if you forgot to go out at the start, for example, or if you have some issues on your laps as well, like a spin or something that can delay you, or if you go for a second lap, those things can affect your chances of getting all 3 runs in.
Yeah, we've seen so far 2 drivers that were unable to set a lap time. All the other 18 drivers were able to set one, and fairly competitive ones, as we are within a second of one another. And I think the drivers that are still in the 41s will soon be getting out of that. I do think that our pole lap time will be a little bit quicker than we currently see. So 44, I think, might go to a 0.2, maybe even a 0.1 if we are lucky. But I think definitely more drivers are going to bring bring that average lap time down. Looks like most laps are either in the 0.5s or 0.6s, and I think in a moment we will see most of those laps in the 0.5s or perhaps even the 0.4s. The first driver that can do something about that will be Inversizo, but we'll be watching Silly Sly Guys. We've just seen a full run of Inversizo already, and we'll see if Silly Sly Guy can improve from that P14 that he's currently in, as he's now in the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, just having a quick look at the sector times for Silly Sly Guy. It's about a tenth or two in Sector 1 and Sector 3, so maybe running slightly higher wings than some of the other drivers on the track. But we'll see how things go this time around. Maybe a couple of mistakes in the lap and he's able to find some time on this second attempt. 40.9, of course, his current time, about half a second off. So going to be looking to find that as he burns the battery down the hill. Up Eau Rouge we go. Up over the crest of Radion onto the Kemmel Straight. And let's see how this one shapes out. Probably looking to find about a tenth if he can in this first sector through the split. And it's going to be almost a 10th found, 88 thousandths of a second up for Silly Sly Guy as we make our way through Malmedy now. This middle sector was his strong point on the first lap, so going to have to try and work very hard if he wants to find even more time here, only about a 10th of a second off the fastest middle sector we've seen, which was set by Gabriel Moya up in P7. Let's see now in towards Pouon. Flat out in qualifying, 7th gear, carrying as much speed as you can. Looks like a pretty decent lap so far, but still quite a way to go. A couple more corners left to navigate. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, a little bit shaky through Lafanya as he makes his way through Stavilo now, but he must be going for an improvement in that middle sector, and indeed he's up by 2/10. That's quite a good improvement. That will only put him, though, into the 40.6s, so he will still need to improve in that final sector if he wants to get close to any of the other drivers. And Versizo is now about to go to start-finish, but I think he has gone into pit lane, so he surely must have invalidated in his run, as we see a little bit of dust coming from the brakes of Silly Sly Guy, but he's now going to come across the line and does improve in the final sector nicely. P4 for him now, 40.5 is put in, as Franek Yeziorni sits the fastest lap time so far of qualifying session. Josh, just for you to let you know, I have to quickly go downstairs a little bit. It seems like there's something up here, so I'll be back in a few minutes. I'll just keep everything on auto queue, so if you could fill in for me, that would be great.
Yeah, well, Dennis Kamensky just going to the top. The Red Bull Victor Garcia, 1-2 for Red Bull now, 40.301, 40.402. So both the Red Bulls looking very strong here. We've got Tom 97, who has unfortunately abandoned his lap. He won't be improving. Ryan Jacobs, championship leader, over a 10th up through the first two sectors. He'll be looking to try and improve on the time, try and put himself to the top. Can he do that? Only finds 0.02 of a second, losing time in that final sector. Sets an identical time to Franek. P3, 40.414. We've got a couple more cars coming across the line now as well. Takubi comes up to the line and he goes to second fastest onto the front row, 40.342 for the Kick Sauber. Very nice lap time there indeed. We've got one of the Williams, I think, Bennett Hayder potentially, yes. Comes across the line to go sixth fastest with a 40.441. Next car to the line going to be the Alpine of Alessandro Finn, who goes 17th fastest with a 14.8, and then the Aston Martin of Josh Rothwell improving to 7th on a 40.444. And I think that is going to be most of the drivers done with their laps. Just keeping an eye on everyone, having a look, see if anybody is out of sync. As it stands, though, looks like pretty much everybody done with their attempts. We'll just check Diego Ferrer. No, he's not on a lap either. He's on his way back. So, yeah, I think that is the second run's done. Dennis Kamensky, a very nice improvement for him to put himself to the top. Red Bull 1 and 3 as well. Takubi splitting the pair of them. Franiek Yeziorni, 40.414, equal time to Ryan Jacobs, who's in P5 now, going to be looking to try and improve on that time. Bennett Hayder in 6th, Josh Rothwell in 7th, Jonas Orpel in P8, Diego Ferrer, P9, Silly Sly Guy in P10, Tom Wolfgram, Inversizo, Gabriel Moya, Tom 97, Demaiko, Formula Kai, Alessandro Finn, Giovanni Galeotto, Pesci and Kasper Jedrzak is your order as it stands. We've got 4 minutes 20 seconds left on the clock, so all the drivers now making their way back to the pit lane and getting themselves prepared for that one final run where it's all going to matter. As it stands, 41 thousandths separating our top two. Still no rain seen in this session as well, so things
Yeah,
nice
perfect timing actually. Sorry about that. I just had to quickly go downstairs. I thought there was a medical emergency, but turns out there was a massive spider in the living room. Things happen. Anyways, it looks like Aizen has kept his provisional pole. Takubi has managed to slot in nicely. Ryan Jacobs hasn't gone for much of an improvement, but he did go equal with Frank Yaziordi, so he's now in P5. But yeah, Takubi, who's also in the championship fight with him, is now ahead. Bennett Hayter slightly behind, and Tom Wolfram, his direct competitor, is in P11.
Yeah, 3 minutes 20 seconds left to go in qualifying. I think we've got our first few cars heading out onto the track. Once again, Silly Sly Guy going to be one of the first to hit the track. 3 minutes to go, and he is very eager to get the clean track, get his run in, and get this qualifying done with. Currently just within the top 10, couple hundreds ahead of Tom Wolfgram. But yeah, of course, looking to find that improvement. I mean, find a tenth of a second, and he'll be finding a couple of positions. Find 2/10 of a second, and that would be jumping him all the way to the second row of the grid. I mean, it does just show how competitive things are here, and how important it is to try and hook up every single corner absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, with the improvements that we have already seen, we're now in the low 3s. So I think we can hope to go into the low 2s or perhaps even the 40.1s. Any quicker than that seems to be very, very tough tonight. We'll be at least following Victor Garcia for his third run. He's also in P3 currently, and the drivers just behind him are now also coming out of the pit box. Takubi and Aizen have now also left it. Ryan Jacobs already out there on track along with Tom Wolfgram. Tom Wolfgram just 1 or 2 places behind Victor Garcia, who we are currently eyeing, and by the looks of it, Josh Rothwell is just leaving pit lane now as well. I hope this time he's timed it well, because I believe like the last time in Singapore, he just managed out on his last run.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time now. It's a 1 minute 40 lap time, so he's currently at the top of Radion, and if you were starting a lap now, you just barely make it back to the start-finish line, so yeah, plenty of time for the Aston Martin. Silly Sly Guy coming into the bus stop will be the first to get a lap underway, bit of a gap to the next set of cars, and those cars going to be fighting it out for pole position. Let's see what Silly Sly Guy can do from P10.
Well, let's move over to Silly Sly Guy then, because he's already out there on track and will be eyeing his first sector time, as it seems like he's slightly overshot the source hairpin as he's now making his way down towards Eau Rouge and Radion onto the Camel Straight. In a moment's notice is where we go. And in about 10 seconds from now, we will see if he has any improvement in that first sector. Last lap out, he managed to improve by almost a tenth. This time round, it is 20,000, almost 20,000 of a second. So he's still on for an improvement, and he needs some more if he wants to get closer into that top 10.
Yeah, Victor Garcia is the next driver to start a lap. A lot of them now making their way through the bus stop. Garcia currently a tenth of a second off of pole position as it stands. Let's see. First sector split up by also 200ths of a second, so lots of drivers able to find some time out there as they make their way through this lap. Demaiko picking up a 5-place grip penalty in the bus stop. I think everybody queuing up as they get ready to start their lap, and it's caused a couple of penalties for some of the drivers. That is very unfortunate to see. I'm not sure whether that would be able to be reverted or whether he will have to, unfortunately, just run with that penalty.
Now, I think we will have a lobby restart based on that. A Silly Sly Guy is currently on for a 2/10 improvement. That was an amazing second sector, as Kasper Jajicic has just taken the checkered flag, so he won't be going for any improvement. And it looks like his teammate Josh Rothwell has indeed managed to overtake him out on that outlap, as now Silly Sly Guy comes to the line. It's a big slide coming out of the bus stop chicane, and that hurts his lap time lots, because he could have been a whole lot quicker, and he could have been up for P3. But here comes Victor Garcia, also up by 2/10. This is good enough for a 0.1. Can he keep it together through the bus stop chicane? Don't slide, slightly oversteer there, getting into the bus stop chicane, coming out of it. He comes across the line. Oh, he lost all of that time in that final sector. Tom Wolfgram to the top of the timing table with a massive final run. Ryan Jacobs only 42 thousandths quicker in that middle sector. Can he go for a massive final sector, or is Tom Wolfgram going to snatch away pole from Ryan, and Ryan can only do P4?
Yes, still drivers out there improving, of course, though. Dennis Kamensi, currently P2, has invalidated, so he won't be finding improvement. Franek goes up to P3. Takubi also out there finding time. Gabriel Moya to the top. The Kick Sauber driver taking it. Are we going to be seeing both Kick Saubers jumping up to the front in the dying stages of this session? A couple more drivers as well coming across the line as these drivers do the same. Takubi across the line. He stays in P5, losing time in the final sector. The two Williams. DeMico going to P10. Bennett Hayder going up to P5. He also finds a very nice improvement there at the end of the session. Josh Rothwell jumping up to P5, taking that one away. And of course, Dennis Kamensi, no improvement there. And final few drivers coming across the line. I think they're all invalidated though. So yeah, both the McLarens unable to improve. They will be starting 17th and 18th.
Yeah, that means that it's pole position for Gabriel Moya, the only driver that's got into the 40.1s. Tom Wolfgram doing a great job putting his car in P2, also being P2 in that championship. For championship leader, Ryan Jacobs could do no better than 8th, and he sees all 3 of his nearest championship competitors ahead of him. In 7th, Takubi, 6th, Bennett Hayder, and as already mentioned, Tom Wolfgram in P2. As we're now waiting to see if we're getting a restart or not. At least the drivers are asking about it in chat. I do expect that we're going to get a restart, but hopefully we will get that confirmed by Tom Wolfgram in a moment. But a great run for him, and for the full positions, just going through it quickly. Gabriel Moya takes pole position ahead of Tom Wolfgram. Then it's Aizen ahead of Franek Yeziorni, Josh Rothwell, Bennett Hayder in 6th. Takubi, Ryan Jacobs, Victor Garcia, and DeMico rounding off your top 10. Then it's Jonas Orpol, Silly Sly Guy, Diego Ferrer in P13, Inversizo, Tom 97, Alessandro Finn P16. Then it's Formula Kai, Giovanni Galeotto, Pesci, and your final position going to Kasper Jadrzyk in the Aston Martin. And I think we are indeed going to get a restart here, Josh.
Yep, and that is fair enough, of course. Grid penalties, when drivers are queuing up, they haven't actually done anything wrong there. They're just getting ready for their qualifying lap, in which case there's no need for a penalty to be issued. So yeah, just evens out the playing field, lets everyone get a fresh footing. They'll get a chance quickly to see how their race start is going to go on either the medium or hard tyres. I would assume from the drivers maybe someone's going to be brave and try to start on a soft, but it gives them an opportunity for a very, very brief run on race through. Just for the first few corners, I expect some of them will drive around, see how the car is reacting. Of course, it's going to be a little bit different to the low fuel, high grip, soft compound tyres in qualifying. But yeah, we will get everything restarted, get the grid reset, and we will be heading towards a 22 lap race here.
Yeah, so indeed the restart has been confirmed in chat, so that means that we'll also be going over to our dual camera view, because we will have to wait for a couple of minutes for the race to get underway, as we're now seeing the first lobby going underway. That of course is going to get restarted, although I don't see any of the drivers really, oh no, they're just having a little bit of fun, there we go, as they are going to get ready for the restart, just to make sure that DeMico does not get that grid. He didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in the world for him. Of course, it's not a direct championship rival picking up that pole position point. So his life is made a little bit easier there, of course. Of course, he would have been hoping to have that point and be starting at the front. But I wouldn't say it's the end of the world. Considering how much of a lead he has here, 26 points is a lot to overcome just in 3 races. It's almost 9 points per race. And with how few points you do actually pick up, the difference between points as well, that is a tough hill to be climbing.
That is a very, very tough hill indeed. So I'm currently, I think, going back to the lobby as the drivers have gotten the queue already. No, they have not gone the queue to ready just yet. The general chat here so we can see what happens with the weather as well. The race would have been clear, but because the weather should be on dynamic, if I'm not mistaken, we might be seeing some different weather conditions out there. And as it is Belgium, just north of the Ardennes forest, do not count out any rain, because we've seen some rain here before and we've seen lots of it, and they're very prone to some heavy rains. As for anyone out there, if you're ever going to Belgium, definitely don't hesitate to make a stop around the Spa-Francorchamps track. There are a lot of races going on there. A lot of them are also just free admission, so you can just walk up right next to the track, get a close-up look of Eau Rouge and Raidillon, and get a good look at the drivers either doing some practicing or maybe some GT races that you've got going on there. So if you are ever around in the area, definitely make sure to visit the track in real life as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the best tracks I think on the calendar, just for the views alone. You are racing through the Ardennes forest, and such big elevation changes. It is one of those traditional tracks. You used to race through small villages around this track as well before this layout got changed. It is definitely one of the best tracks I think. If you were to pick one to visit, it's definitely up there in probably anybody's top 3.
It definitely is. I've been there a few times standing trackside, not for a Formula 1 race, sadly, but yeah, it's really nice to see how accessible it is, really, and how many times the track that is occupied as well for some racing there. So always nice to have a good look at that. And indeed, the old layout did used to go through the villages there. Thankfully today it's a lot safer, as we've seen races being boycotted by drivers in the past as well. I believe as late as the 90s, when drivers just flat out refused to drive here because it was too dangerous. Of course, nowadays tracks have gotten much safer, but unfortunately we have seen fatal incidents as recent as 2019 in F2, just showing that this track is still one of the most dangerous out there, although for most drivers also a delight to drive around. Thankfully, our drivers do not have to worry about that. They will have to worry now about the setup that they're going to be choosing, because they can make some slight adjustments compared to what they have just run in qualifying session.
Yeah, I mean, going to be an interesting one, of course. I think strategy is going to be something else to watch in this race. The hard tyres, I think they became a step harder quite a few months ago now. The drivers would have had time, of course, to get used to that change. But it means that you can run extremely long in the race on the hard compound tyre. You can go, I think, at least 15 laps usually on that hard compound tyre. That's kind of where you're looking to make that pit stop. So seeing how things play out, of course, there, if we see an early safety car, a lot of the drivers might be pitting to go to the end, but equally having such a big offset between the tyres, some drivers may start on that hard compound tyre, go long into the race, and then make a very big comeback later on.
We will see about that indeed, as currently watching the chat going on to see what is going on there. It looks like something might get protested based on what happened in qualifying session, but looks like our Holston Wolfgram has given a heads up to get ready, and we will soon be loading into the game. As once we do load into the game, we will get our information board about the track up as well, to give you some extra information about this legendary circuit before, of course, preparing for the main race here. As Josh already said, we've got 22 laps coming at you, and the big question always is, as remains, will we have rain or will it be clear?
Yeah, all to be revealed. We are slowly but surely making our way into the lobby now. Just got to wait for those drivers to pick their tyre allocations. I expect A lot of them going to be going for that balanced tyre allocation. Given how hard the hard compound tyre is, it can last long enough that taking 2 sets of the mediums is probably the better call here. Some of them may go for that harder allocation, though you have plenty of soft tyres already. So the softer allocation not really going to be a question for the drivers. But yeah, of course, if we do see some changing conditions, things could really shake up. Obviously, if you've got intermediates and hard tyres in play potentially, or maybe some drivers gambling on a medium, depending on when the changeover comes, that's of course going to shake things up. And very soon, I think we will be heading down to the grid.
Yes, and before we do, let's get our pre-race info in. So we are at Spa-Francorchamps, 7 kilometers and 4 meters long, with a distance from grid to T1, 271 meters, a medium downforce track with 2 DRS zones, and most importantly, a pit lane time loss of only 17.4 seconds, Josh. That is very short.
Yeah, I mean, especially for how long this track is. It is the longest track, 7.004 kilometers. Of racetrack here. It's a relatively short pit lane. Of course, there's the endurance pit lane on the other side as well, but that's not used by F1. That does tend to increase the time that you are spending in the pit lane. But yeah, it's a relatively short start-finish straight, relatively short run towards turn 1, and a relatively short pit lane, all for a very, very long circuit. 22 laps of racing to come very soon, and I think going to be a very exciting race here.
Yeah, and judging by the weather, it seems to be quite similar to what we had in qualifying in the first race. What would have been the first race, there weren't any penalties, of course. The weather seemed to be a little bit better than it is now. But at least for now, I don't have any worries about any pending rain, although that might change, of course, as the session progresses. In a moment, we're going to go over to the grid where we have a Kick Sauber driver on pole position. That, of course, is Gabriel Moya, and not too far away we will see, well, Tom Wolfgram just behind him, one of the championship competitors, and further down the line we will find championship leader Ryan Jacobs just behind that other Kick Sauber of Takubi.
Yeah, I am just briefly having a look at the race director, just to see what the drivers are thinking strategy-wise, and most of them on the hard compound tyres for this race start. As it stands, there's 3 drivers selecting the medium tyres. That might, of course, change by the time we head to the grid, but here we go.
And with 4 and 5 red lights, away we are here in Spa-Francorchamps, Belgium, with a great start on the inside for Gabriel Moya, as immediately Aizen tries to get past the Ferrari of Tom Wolfgram. Side by side they go, coming out of Lesor's hairpin, and we see a big squabble towards the back with a couple of drivers into the gravel. Silly Sly Guy involved with that. Diego Ferrer, Jonas Orpel, as well as De Michaels now having a tussle with Victor Garcia. Victor going fully off track there on top of Radios. They still go side by side. Ryan Jacobs already fighting Frank Gaziorni for P6. A lot of... oh no, that can't go well. 3 drivers wide into Lecombe, and they still go side by side through Malmedy. I wonder how this is not ending up in tears. Ryan Jacobs and Takubi are so close to one another. Ryan Jacobs about to be pushed out by Bennett Hayter, but looks like they still stay nice. Victor Garcia has gotten the wrong end of the stick. A lot of parts are flying through the track as we see a McLaren now trying to get through in Pujon. It's chaos all over. Oh, and a big spin from Victor Garcia once more. He surely has been dealt the short end of the stick. He is now in P19, but further up ahead, great start from Ryan Jacobs. He's already made his way up into P6.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sketchy one for Ryan, especially through turn 8. They're having contact with Takubi and Franek. Fortunately, Ryan was probably the one that came off best from that squabble. But having to look forward now, looking to make some positions, already breaking the DRS as well. Ryan really going to be hoping Bennett is able to pick up the pace here, because if you are out of that DRS, it's going to make your life so much harder, especially later on in the race. You're going to be losing probably over half a second a lap just from the DRS alone, as battling into the bus stop chicane continues on. Of course, the 2 Mercedes drivers briefly side by side. Gabriel Moya still leading up at the front though, and Takubi making moves into turn 1.
Yeah, they could be making moves indeed into turn 1 onto Inversizo. Inversizo already gained 5 places so far in that first lap. Same can be said about Alessandro Finn. Galeotto did do one better, and Kasper Jędrzejczyk starting from the back of the grid, now in P13, gained 7 places so far. Most positions lost go to Jonas Orpol, Silly Sliga with 7, and Victor Garcia, who's now in pit lane, down 11 places, as Aizen and Josh Rothwell are fighting just in front of Malmedy, as it looks like Aizen's come out ahead once more. I think Josh might have had a little moment heading in to Lecombe, as it's also Ryan Jacobs who's managed to get the jump onto Bennett Hader, but I think that was because Bennett did not have DRS, but Ryan Jacobs of course did, and he is now looking to close that gap to Josh Rothwell up ahead, and it's now just under a second.
Yeah, there was a bit of contact between Dennis and Josh through the chicane, and Ryan having a bit of extra pace as well. Now back within the DRS, so his race set back on the rails once again. He will be much happier now. He was briefly, I think, about 1.6 seconds off the back of the two in front here. So yeah, very fortunate to be back within the DRS now as we head our way towards the bus stop chicane. Gabriel Moya, 0.8 of a second clear, will be very happy with how this race start has gone, maintained the lead and getting himself close to breaking DRS. Unfortunately, not able to do it just yet, but he was very quick in that middle sector, 0.4 of a second faster than the car behind him. Tom Wolfram now setting the fastest lap, though. Ryan Jacobs taking that one away with a 44.9. Very nice pace being set there by the V-Carb driver, and he's going to be looking to push on, make up some positions and get himself into a potentially championship contending position here tonight.
Yeah, of course, for him to get that championship, he will have to outscore Tom Wolfgram by at least 8 points. And with Tom Wolfgram being in P2, that seems to be a pretty much impossible task for him. In the meantime, Aizen looks like he's about to be breaking DRS, as the same can be said about Ryan Jacobs. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but Josh Rothwell in turn has gotten much closer to Aizen up ahead. So we'll take a look at Josh Rothwell as we're currently going to go through the tire allocation for this race. It looks like only Alessandro Finn dared to start on the mediums. As for Pesci and Victor Garcia, they were the only two drivers that have gone for a pit stop. They're currently on mediums, so surely they will have to come in again later. But for Alessandro Finn, great race start. He'll be the first one to pit. I wonder how strong that undercut is going to be later on, Josh.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out what's going on here. I was just checking. I assumed it was front wing changes for both of them. Pesci actually came into the pits, but his front wing didn't get changed. So he's still actually, unfortunately, driving around with the front wing damage that he gave up all that track position and time for. So either he's going to have to make another pit stop, or he will have to make another pit stop to get to the end of this race. But he might have to come in 2 laps in a row here, unfortunately, just because the team did not change his front wing.
Be very unfortunate if that is the case indeed. We're going to find out in about 25 seconds from now, as he's going to make his way to the pit straight then, as we're now currently watching Tom Wolfgram breaking a little bit later into La Source, as he's trying to get a little bit closer to Gabriel Moya up ahead. The gap now is 5/10, and that might be close enough, as Jonas Orpol has retired from the session. That has and must have been into pit lane. Wonder if Pesci might do the same thing, but he's actually decided to stay out, so he's just continuing with that front wing damage. Victor Garcia set the fastest lap time. That of course makes sense, as he's one of few drivers on the medium compound without damage, and Tom Wolfgram managed to get a little bit closer to Moya up ahead, but Gabriel keeping that race lead nice and tight for now, seemingly not having to worry too much about the drivers behind just yet.
Yeah, Ryan Jacobs still pushing on. It's difficult to catch here because the main place where you would want to gain that time is on the DRS straights, and you're going to be getting so much dirty air throughout this lap. He did briefly get the gap to Bennett Hader behind over a second, although that has come back down once again. But as it stands, I'm not sure whether Ryan is just managing his tyres or whether he is, now that he's in the dirty air, struggling to close that gap. But it's been pretty much staying at around 0.8 to almost a second for quite a while, although it has now just come down a little bit. Maybe he'll be able to close in a little bit more this time around.
Yeah, as we make our way through, it looks like Josh Rothwell is starting to close the gap onto Aizen up ahead, who is in P3. Josh now getting within 3/10 of his nearest competitor as DeMico has just managed to get the jump onto Alessandro Fins. Looking like those hards are finally getting the temperature in nicely, now being able to compete with those medium runners. But of course, Alessandro does not have DRS to the drivers up ahead, as where DeMico did have that DRS last time out, and maybe he can now do the same thing and take that 10th place back. Silly Sly Guy in the meantime is in pit lane. Josh Rothwell still very close to Aizen up ahead, but he will need to close that gap down a lot more before he can actually overtake with the DRS coming into play. But we're starting to see some more gaps emerge here, Josh. And, well, actually, Takubi is very close, was very close to Frantic Giziorni, now ahead in P7.
Yeah, battery management is really difficult around this circuit, so I think quite a lot of what we're seeing is a lot of the drivers just don't have the battery to try and catch up. Once they go for an overtake, they've dumped all of their battery on the back straight to get close into the bus stop chicane. They've dumped it all on the main straight as well, the Kemmel straight, because it's hard to overtake in a DRS train. They end up with very little battery, and then they spend quite a while having to either recharge or kind of just float around the 0% mark for quite a while, just desperately trying to get any sort of battery in to try and stick with the cars in front. I think it's what we see for quite a few of the drivers. A lot of them up at the front, just been recharging though, getting themselves ready to be able to defend or attack depending on what the scenario calls for. But I think it might be the issue that a couple of the drivers, like Bennett Hader, is currently facing. He's very nearly, and in fact, as it stands, dropped out of the DRS and dropping a lot of time on this race as well. He just lost 2/10 since the previous corner.
Yeah, I think another thing we should take into consideration is the damage that a lot of drivers are driving with. DeMico is missing a front wing end plate. Alessandro Finn also missing a front wing end plate. As we see in the back, Diego Ferrer tried to go for a little cheeky look down the inside on Kasper Jadrzejczyk, but we see all the, well, most of the field, half of the field almost, queue up behind Alessandro Finn. So Giovanni Galeotto is there, Kasper Jadrzejczyk, Diego Ferrer, Formula Kai and Tom 97 all within that same queue, so 6 drivers all together, and I think Alessandro Finn will be overtaken by at least one car here as soon as we head onto the Kemmel Straight. So let's stay with him as we see the McLaren already pulling out alongside him. Of course, he does not have any damage. Kasper Jadrzejczyk, I think, is missing a front wing end plate as well. Quite a lot of drivers having some damage here tonight, George, as we see a late send from Tom 97 trying to go around the outside of Formula Kai, but sadly that does not work for him either.
While we're watching that, Tom Wolfcramp taking the lead of the race, gets himself up into P1. Nice pass down the Kemmel Straight with the DRS. Yeah, I think just being able to manage the battery a little bit better, and of course, Gabriel Moya didn't have the DRS at the time. It makes things so much easier, of course, because you don't really gain much at all. Despite how long that straight is, everybody's running such low wings, everyone's got their DRS open, and they're burning all the battery they have. There isn't really much to be gained with the slipstream. Once you do get to that point, there's not much drag on the car at that point anyway. So it does make overtaking a little bit difficult once you're in the train. There's still lots of battery as Tom 97 goes for a big send into Stavolo there, gets himself ahead of Alessandro Finn up into P15 now.
Yeah, and with that, Alessandro Finn has dropped down from P11 to P16 just in this lap alone. And it shows that with his degrading medium tires and that missing front wing end plate, he surely is losing a lot of time. But let's take a look at the top drivers, whether they have got any damage. It looks like for top 3 at least not. I just want to see quickly the front wing of Josh Rothwell, but I don't think he's got any damage either. I believe not. Same can be said about Bennett Hader. And Ryan Jacobs. Takubi's front wing is fine as well. Same about Frantic Giziorni. Inversizo's front wing is fine. And then when we get to DeMico, we see our first driver with a little bit of damage. But at least your top 9, Josh, all fine, fair and square with their front wings.
Yep, and our top 2 once again swapping positions as Tom 97 also on the attack once again. This time around does get Formula Kai into the Lacombe chicane, gets himself up into P14 now. Finally able to get that move done, although he's just touched the gravel on the outside there. Formula Kai briefly thinking about it as they head down the hill into turn 8, but not going to get the move done this time around. So that position gained for the V-Carb driver, and he can start to set his sights forward on the likes of Diego Ferrer and Kasper as well.
Yeah, Casper is now already 1.3 seconds behind Galeotto, so that means it will be easier for Diego Ferrer, Tom 97, Formula Kai, and also Alessandro Finn to catch up with him. Galeotto will be having his own fight with DeMichael before falling into a 4-second gap towards Inversizo. Now we have another cue from Bennett Hayter all the way down to Inversizo, so 4 drivers. Bennett Hayter 2.7 seconds down on Ryan Jacobs, but this is great news for Ryan Jacobs because Bennett Hayter, Takubi, and in a sense also Inversizo, some of his championship competitors are quite a bit behind him and broken by the DRS. The only driver he has to worry about is 3 places ahead of him. That, of course, is Tom Wolfgram, currently in P2, but I think he's going to swap places once again with Gabriel Moya once he heads onto the Camel Straight.
Well, let's see. He's about 0.4 of a second back. Already 0.3 by the time they hit that DRS point. And yeah, nice easy overtake here for the Ferrari driver. We'll get that position. Once again, Denis Kamensky, unfortunately not close enough to capitalize on the battling as well, as Takubi does get his way past Bennett Hayter. Naki Saba now try and set his pace out, try and see if he can reel in the car to in front. 2.6 seconds though. It's quite a big gap to be closing here.
Yeah, it's quite a big gap to be closing, and realistically you will only be closing that gap once we get to the pit stop sequence. But with these drivers starting on the hard set of compounds, that means that they're going to extend their first stint a little bit longer, so maybe we'll have some early stoppers around lap 12, but I think most drivers want to take it a little bit more secure and stop a little bit later, perhaps 13. 14 would be pushing it though. I think most will be about lap 12 or 13, maybe some even as early as lap 11 to switch on to the mediums, whereas others might be hoping for a safety car or some weather changes. But I'm not sure if you can see anything in the console, Josh, but I don't think we're going to see any rain later today.
I did double check at the start of the race. There is no rain expected, so yeah, I think relatively straightforward strategy throughout this race. Just try and extend the hards as long as possible, build up a nice tire advantage. I think maybe a little bit longer on the hards. Usually I've seen around lap 14, lap 15, sometimes even lap 16 is when the drivers are looking to pit here, just because it's the C1, C3 and C4. There's a 2-step difference between the compounds here. So the hards can go a considerable distance and the mediums will fall off relatively quickly. We have got Alessandro Finn in off the medium tyres, and 7 laps he has done. I expect that will be to go to the end of the race as well. In fact, 8 laps completed, sorry. Potentially a fix of the wing here is on. No, he is going to continue with the damage. But yeah, 15 laps to the end of this race on the hard tyres should be doable for the Alpine driver.
Yeah, so I think with that we can right about see when the medium is going to expire, meaning the other drivers also know that what you said around lap 15, perhaps even a little bit later or 1 lap before, our drivers will be coming in. So that means we have at least a few more laps to go before we start our pit stop. Currently in lap 9, Tom Wolfgram and Gabriel Moya have been swapping the lead of the race for a little bit. The first 5 you're now seeing in one view, in one train of one another. Then Takubi follows 2.6 seconds behind. Bennett Hayter has not been able to re-overtake him. He's in that second train along with Frank Yazzioni and Inversizo. And then our final train, as you could say, Giovanni Galeotto all the way down to Formula Kai before we head over to our drivers that have gone into pit lane. Victor Garcia, Alessandro Finn and Pesci, although 2 of those went in very early after some contact at the start of the race.
Yeah, I caught as well at the start of this lap. I was actually into turn 7. Tom Wolfgram went a little bit wide. He had a bit of a wobble getting onto the power coming out of Les Combes. Went very briefly into the gravel just with his left-hand side of the car. Fortunately, nothing big coming out of it. In the end, he managed to hold on to the position. It has allowed Denis Kamensky to get a little bit closer than he has been before. In fact, all of these drivers, I think, probably a little bit closer than they have been before. So things going to close in a little bit, I think, lap after lap, especially as we close in on the pit window. But for the time being, Gabriel Moya just going to close in, and a nice easy pass. Tom Wolfgram moving out of the way, allowing Gabriel Moya to take the racing line. They don't want to cost themselves too much time here and potentially risk Denis Kamensky getting in on the fight, as well as Victor Garcia coming into the pits now as well to go back onto the hard tyre that he started on.
Yeah, looks like Demaiko and Giovanni Galeotto are having a little bit of a fight. Tom 97 getting ahead of Kasper Jacek now in P13. As you rightfully mentioned, Victor Garcia coming in for his second and final pit stop. Now switching from the mediums onto the hards, because they know that these hards will last at least 12 laps. Meaning that, of course, the drivers currently still out on the hards will be continuing for a few more laps to come. Victor Garcia has actually left this session just now. I'm not sure if that is a disconnect or something else is going to come into play, but I was just about to move over to Inversizo, who is in P9. He was starting to get closer to the drivers up ahead, and it looks like Bennett Hayter is having at least a little bit of issues keeping up with the drivers up ahead. He first struggled to keep up with Ryan Jacobs. Now the gap is 1.3 seconds to Takubi ahead, and he's vulnerable from Franek Isiorni and Inversizo just behind.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see, of course. He had quite a nice qualifying, decent start to the race, just hasn't really had the pace to keep up with the leading train of drivers. Takubi has actually gained 2/10 on our leading pack of drivers as well. Maybe a bit of fighting will allow him very slowly to try and claw his way back into contention. There's a 3-second penalty as well for Pesci. Down in P17, really just hasn't been his day today, unfortunately. Just kind of continuing around at the back in case a safety car comes at some point and gives him a chance for some points. Once again, we look to our leaders. This time around, not going to be a swap of positions. Tom Wolfram choosing to sit behind this time around. 0.6 of a second covering our top three.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of fighting there. Inversizo trying to take the high ground to get past Franek Isiorni up ahead. He is not able to make that move, but who has been able to make the move is Giovanni Galeotto. And Diego Ferrer with a late send into Lecombe has managed to get past Demaiko as well. Demaiko having to take a little bit of evasive action there, not to connect with Ferrer, but Ferrer staying well within track limits to take over P11. And that leaves Demaiko vulnerable for Tom 97 just behind. Keep in mind, Demaiko is missing that front wing end plate, so it will be a little bit easier for Tom to catch up with him and to go for the overtake in a moment's notice. As for Diego Ferrer, he, of course, is eyeing that P10 of Giovanni Galeotto, hoping to pick up some points here tonight.
Yeah, we're now approaching the end of lap 11, so half race distance almost completed. And now we start to see the drivers probably coming towards the end of the management phase of this stint. They're going to be pushing a little bit harder, looking for some more overtakes, as we've seen, especially in that mid-pack, trying to solidify their position in this race. The likes of Josh Rothwell, who's now only 0.3 off the back of Dennis Kamensky, might be thinking about a potential move in these next few laps to try and get himself into the fight for the win here. Of course, fourth car in the train is going to be a bit difficult to try and fight, because as it stands, he's 1.7 seconds off the car leading this train. He can't really make an overtake from there, but if he can move himself forward and stick close to the back of Tom Wolfgram, there's a chance that he might be able to try and go for a move here.
Yeah, I'll have to just stay close to the drivers up ahead and perhaps go for the undercut, which has been also powerful in this game, as Inversizo's now managed to get ahead of Franek Isiorni down the Camel Straight. But we're currently watching Tom 97. He's already alongside at the start of the Camel Straight. He will be ahead of Demaiko, who's missing that front wing end plate and is just costing him a lot of time up Rouge and Radion, and allowing Tom to get through. He's now in P12. His next target will be Diego Ferrer, but we're going to go up further on the field towards Josh Rothwell, who is in P4. He's managing his pace quite well, but I think, Josh, your namesake has a little bit more pace than the driver up ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, just the nature of this game is, even though you may be the fastest driver out there, due to maybe a slightly poor qualifying or some mistakes in the race, you can lose the positions and get stuck behind someone with a relatively similar pace, and then you just can't really do much about it. A 1/10 of a second advantage isn't going to be enough to make an overtake on most tracks, in which case you're kind of just stuck there until they make a mistake in front, or the strategy comes into play, like you said, a potential undercut to try and gain that track position. You might have slightly worse tyres, but if you've got the pace, you can try and hang on, try and save the tyres. As well as Ryan Jacobs going for an early pit stop here at the end of lap 13. Gonna pull the strategy card here. Sorry, the start of lap 13, end of lap 12. So going quite early onto those medium compound tyres. It's going to be 10 laps on the medium, which is longer than anybody has done so far. Pesci currently on 9 laps on those medium tyres. But yeah, interesting decision by Ryan Jacobs. Of course, he wants to get that track position, but he's going to be coming out very close to the back of this train of cars in the battle for P9 as it stands, and very soon going to be facing quite a lot of traffic.
Yeah, let's see. He's now coming out there on track. He's about 1.5 seconds down only on Kasper Jadrojczyk, and this is not the place that you want to be in. Hopefully, the drivers up ahead are hoping to avoid that, but I think they're just going to dive right in to this fight. As for Ryan, it's key to get a lot of grounds covered as quickly as he can, catch up with the drivers up ahead, and hoping that he gets the undercut on the drivers up ahead. I think Takubi will be making a pit stop quite soon as well. He's actually managed to catch up with Ryan Jacobs. About 6/10 he's managed to gain in about 4 or 5 laps time. But he's managed to do so without DRS, where Ryan, of course, has had 2 zones of DRS. So very impressive performance from Takubi all the way through. And if he can get the undercut on the drivers up ahead, he might be able to put himself well within that fight. But yeah, Ryan is now going to get stuck behind these drivers up ahead. How quickly can he dispatch Kasper Jadrojczyk? He's almost side by side going towards Curveball Fair, but he knows he can't do it here yet. Needs to use a bit of ERS to at least be well ahead of the bus stop chicane and be ahead. So Wolfgram, Denis Kamensky and Josh Rothwell have come into pit lane. Takubi's actually decided to stay out together with Gabriel Moya. Most drivers now getting into pit lane, but I think most drivers also responding to what Ryan Jacobs is doing, and Ryan seeing the drivers just ahead of him disappear. That is great news at the start. But for the second bit, he will be too far behind to get DRS on the Camel Straight, I'm afraid.
Well, here we go, coming out to the positions. He has actually jumped Josh Rothwell. He's got the run on Denis Kamensky as we head down in towards Eau Rouge. He will get DRS now, but all of a sudden, everybody converging together. This lead train got Tom 97 now in front of them on the old tyres. They're all going to be heading down in towards Lake Com. Nobody can be able to make any moves here, but they're going to have to fight their way past the V-Carb of Tom 97. Around the outside in contact there with the Red Bull and the V-Carb. Denis Kamensky and Tom 97 making a bit of contact. That's going to allow Ryan Jacobs and Josh Rothwell through, and that's going to clear the traffic there for them. But they've caught up now to the back of Diego Ferrer and Giovanni Galiotto. They're all going to have to navigate this traffic through the middle sector, and there's not really many overtaking opportunities here. All the while, they're getting held up, and Gabriel Moya has a chance to maintain his position, get better tyres for the end of the stint, and Takubi as well, by staying out and avoiding this traffic, might be able to gain some time. Almost contact there between Diego Ferrer and Tom Wolfgram as he almost goes into the back of the Mercedes there. That could have been a disaster for the Ferrari, who's looking to try and take the victory here tonight. Denis Kamensky almost pushing Diego Ferrer through here this corner, and in fact pushing him into the gravel there, just briefly hitting the back of his car. But look at the gap Tom Wolfgram's already pulled here, while Denis Kamensky has been stuck behind the Mercedes with Diego Ferrer. Gabriel Moya now into the pit lane. Still, the Red Bull can't find a way through. This is devastating stuff for him as he sees the Ferrari just pulling further and further away, still side by side as they head into chicane. And this is just going to allow Tom Wolfgram an even bigger margin here. In fact, the gap between them, if you ignore the McLaren, is over a second.
Yeah, it is over a second as we're currently watching Gabriel Moya. I do think he's going to come out at least behind a couple of drivers. He will be quite far behind Tom Wolfgram up ahead. He will now just be side by side with Josh Rothwell. Actually, ooh, that is also close. We can't see where he is just yet. He will be behind Josh Rothwell, so he's lost 4 positions with taking that overcut. But because there was such heavy fighting going on ahead, it means that at least time-wise... Oh, and there's some contact with Josh Rothwell and Ryan Jacobs. Maybe Gabriel Moya can profit from that. Let's go on board with the kick Sauber. Side by side he goes with Josh Rothwell, breaking into the turn. There's a little bit of contact with Rothwell on the outside. He's managed to clear him. Not the cleanest of moves. They still go side by side. This is turning into quite the epic fight as they move their way to Pouhon. Josh Rothwell will be up ahead. So Rothwell keeps the position, loses a little bit of time onto Ryan Jacobs, but that was quite close. And because of all this fighting, Ryan Jacobs now stuck behind Giovanni Galiotto, and the gap to Denis Kamensky and Tom Wolfgram, almost 2 seconds.
I think the big loser there is Josh Rothwell. He picked up damage. He went for that dive on Ryan Jacobs, and his front wing hitting the tyre of Ryan Jacobs and the side pod. It gave him some damage. He's missing his front left end plate, and unfortunately that is really going to cost him. Takubi now into the pits here on lap 15, going for the overcut. He wants those great tyres at the end of this race, but it really does seem like it's going to be a two-horse race up at the front as Giovanni now comes into the pit lane. Ryan Jacobs set free, but the gap is now 2.5 seconds between Ryan Jacobs and Dennis Kamensky. Tom Wolfgram is leading this race, and at the start of this race we were talking about how we're going to need to see big point swings. Ryan Jacobs now 2.5 seconds off the lead. This is perfect for the championship, really.
This is perfect indeed, because if the championship, if the race ends as it is, the championship is going to move from a 26-point lead that Ryan Jacobs has to 20 points with 2 races to go. And that makes it even more of a possibility that we take this championship all the way to the final race of the season at the Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit. But before we move on to that, we're still in lap 16 out of 22, and Ryan Jacobs is feeling some heavy pressure from Gabriel Moya and Josh Rothwell behind, especially Gabriel Moya. He's got the better tires. He stopped a little bit later. Let's give you that tire information. Moya's out on 1 lap old mediums. Ryan Jacobs 3 lap old mediums. As for Denis Kamensky, Tom Wolfgram up ahead. He's on 2 lap olds, as Josh Rothwell behind's on 2 lap olds as well. As the gap to Bennett Hayter, that is too big, but Takubi and Inversizo might be fighting with Bennett and getting that jump onto him, but then 3 seconds to the drivers up ahead. I'm afraid that's too much. As for Ryan Jacobs, 2.7 seconds to Dennis in P2. I think he has to look more to the back than he can look to the front.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, of course. Just got unlucky with the traffic, really. He tried to go early for the undercut, and it didn't really work out for him. He's now got the oldest tyres of anybody on the mediums here. He's going to have the worst tyres, at least for a while, until he can try and save some tyres and manage that deficit. As it stands, he's losing heaps and heaps of time here. Last time around, lost 0.6 of a second to Kamensky in front.
Yeah, Kamensky, one of the quickest drivers out there, and I think he might even try and go for a little bit of a shuffle with Tom Wolfgram up ahead. The gap now about 4/10 as they make their way onto the Camel Straight. Will be the first time that he will be leading the race if he does go for the overtake. Of course, doesn't have to. Gabriel Moya has gone for the overtake already onto Ryan Jacobs. But Dennis just stays behind for the time being, as Josh Rothwell is now losing lots of time to the drivers up ahead. But that's due to that missing front wing end plate. That's good news for Ryan Jacobs, at least. That means he won't be losing as many places as he could potentially lose. But it's now 8 points for him, and Tom Wolfgram is set to pick up 16.
Yeah, it's unfortunate stuff, of course, but for the championship hopes, of course, that is going to be great. 18 points will be the gap with 2 races left to go. Tom Wolfgram just doing exactly what he needs at the moment, continuing on up at the front of the field. We're on lap 17 of 22. Not too much longer left to go in this race. And Gabriel Moya has quite considerably on this lap closed that margin. Just looking at the middle sector split, 45.5 in the middle sector for Dennis Kamensky, 44.4 for Gabriel Moya, 1.1 seconds faster. That is absolutely incredible. At this rate, he's going to drop Ryan Jacobs outside the DRS and get into the DRS of our race leaders in just a lap or two's time.
Yeah, he's using all of the battery that he can use as we see Takubi trying to go round the outside, approaching the bus stop chicane, and he's managed to get the jump onto Inversizo. He wants to do the same thing to Bennett Hayter as well, and Takubi, I think he smells blood, because he knows that Josh Rothwell's got a little bit of damage to his car, so if he can get ahead of Bennett Hayter, P5 is on the cards for the Kicksauber man. So can he make his first move already? As Giovanni Galeotto sets the fastest lap time in the McLaren. Kasper Drajcik picking up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That won't matter much as he's in P15, but here comes Takubi. Down the Camel Straight he goes. To the inside he moves, and ahead in P6 he will emerge as Inversizo's trying to go for a late dive into Lecombe. Side by side they go. A little bit of contact with Bennett Hayter, but he will be out there ahead. P7 for Inversizo. Takubi is in 6th. Formula Kai now getting ahead of Diego Ferrer in P10 as there's big contact. And Diego Ferrer's retired from the session. That must have been a big crash. And that's... oh no. We've got 5 laps to go, gentlemen. And we have a safety car after a little bit of a contact through Lecombe with Formula Kai and Diego Ferrer. It sent Diego Ferrer straight into the barriers. I'm not sure who was at fault there, but it has caused a safety car. And now the big question is, are any drivers going to go for a pit stop? Because look at the gaps here. Frank Izziarni is in a key position because behind him, Giovanni Galeotto, 12 seconds. He's not going to overtake him. So Frank can get a free pit stop. Depending on what the drivers do up ahead, that is going to be a key question. Are you going to come in and give up track position, or are you going to be switching for the softs for the final few laps?
It's going to be a tough call, of course, but you are going to lose considerable track position,
Yeah,
at
you need to.
least 4 or 5 positions. But yes, they are going to have to. Tom Wolfgang, race leader, Dennis Kamensky into the pits. Gabriel Morio as well. Ryan Jacobs is staying out. He's on the oldest tyres of anyone at the moment, on the medium compound tyres. But he is saying, no, I want the track position. It's hard to overtake here. I want the track position here. I want to give it everything. I hope the soft die is his thought process, I think. But yeah, Tom Wolfgang, Dennis Kamensky onto a set of the soft compound tyres. Takubi also opting to stay out. He was on the newest tyres, I think, of almost anybody. So it's I think, a wise decision by Takubi. Take the track position. He doesn't want to go into an equal battle. He already gave himself the opportunity with the fresher tyres. Now he can take the track position and hope that he can hang on here. But this is going to be an interesting game. We've got 2 drivers on 3-lap-old and 6-lap-old tyres up at the front of the field. Soft compound tyres for almost everybody behind. They're all coming into the pits. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Ryan Jacobs and Takubi going to be hanging on for dear life, but also going to be defending for each other. If Takubi can help Ryan Jacobs out, Ryan Jacobs can also help Takubi out, working together, giving themselves the DRS, that could be the deciding factor here, potentially.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what the point difference was again. I think the point difference is 26 points. With Ryan Jacobs now in race lead, Tom Wolfgram in P3 would gain 6 points, making it 32 points ahead, which is no championship just yet. But if Tom Wolfgram loses as much as 2 positions and Ryan Jacobs gets the race win, he will claim the championship here tonight. But this is going to be a very difficult restart for him. He is on 6-lap-old mediums. He only has Takubi as a buffer behind, and then it's 11 drivers, I believe, on soft compounds, all hounding him down. So it's going to be an epic closer to the end of this race. We will see yet another lap, but we should see 2 full laps of racing at minimum. And especially in that final lap, Josh, it will be very hard to keep the other drivers behind.
Yeah, I mean, we know that we'll see a minimum of 2 laps, of course, because the game will bring the safety car in no later than 2 laps from the end. But also what we know is we're on lap 19 at the moment. Lap 20, the end of lap 20, would be 2 laps from the end. So we are going to have exactly 2 laps of racing here to the checkered flag. Ryan Jacobs and Takubi, there's only going to be 1 DRS straight that they're going to be under pressure from. Everything else is going to have to be done on pure battery and pure performance. That could be their potential saving grace here, is that there isn't really much DRS to help them. If they can manage their battery well, it's going to be a bit more difficult for all the cars behind, and with how many cars are behind as well. They're also going to be looking to make positions up on each other, not just on Ryan and Takubi. They're going to have to fight between themselves for these positions if they want to try and make these positions up. Gabriel Moyer, I think, is going to be a big one to watch. He clearly had such supreme pace in that stint. He was a second faster in the middle sector at one point. If he can find his way into some battles here, he could be looking still to try and take the lead and win, potentially, even though he's currently in 5th.
Yeah, this is going to be one epic ending to this Spa-Francorchamps race. And for Ryan Jacobs, he surely must be clenching it here, because it will be very, very difficult to keep these soft runners behind. Victor Garcia goes for an extra pit stop. He won't be catching up with the pack, I feel, as it's still a big question whether Alessandro Finn can catch up with the drivers up ahead. But we're going to see 2 laps of incredibly hard fighting between all the other drivers out there. And for Takubi, he can be the only saving grace for Ryan Jacobs, because his tires are pretty much done for, and those drivers behind on softs will be pushing it to the max and could be as much as 2 or more seconds quicker per lap. So it will be very hard to keep those behind, even though he can manage the battery, even though there's hardly any DRS to be used, as Josh just said. There will be such overspeed from the softs, and I wonder if Ryan made the right decision here, because if he had gone for a pit stop, he would be in P5. Might have been a better option, I feel, Josh. What do you think?
Yeah, I have just quickly looked, and your prediction of about 2 seconds a lap faster is pretty much bang on with what my information is telling me. Ryan Jacobs going to be over 2 seconds a lap off here, but the crucial thing is it's going to be difficult to make the moves in the corners. We saw how difficult it was for the cars to make their way through the traffic when they did make their pit stops originally. That is what Ryan Jacobs and Takubi are going to be playing for. They've got to keep the momentum going. If they start tumbling down the order, it is very quickly going to fall apart, but the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap 20 of 22. We're going to have 2 laps of racing to finish things off here in Spa, and we could potentially, if things go his way, see the championship decided here tonight. But Ryan Jacobs just backing the pack up, waiting for the safety car to make his way back to the pit lane, and very soon they're putting his foot to the floor to get this race back underway.
Yeah, and don't count out Takubi either, because Takubi is only 1 point down on Tom Wolfgren in the championship. So if Takubi manages to get close enough, then he will still put himself within that championship fight with Ryan Jacobs. Ryan, of course, is going to try and wait as long as he possibly can. Look at that. Takubi's already tried to go alongside with him. Ryan knows that he needs to wait. He needs to try and get the timing right. He's now off, and this is a little bit of a surprise. Look at that. Denis Kamensky already down to the inside of Tom Wolfgram. Well, he's alongside with him. Wants to go round the outside. It's been a great restart for Ryan Jacobs, but now they're going to come hounding. Down towards Eau Rouge they go. It's side by side with Tom Wolfgram and Denis Kamensky. Let's try and go on board with Denis, as he has Tom Wolfgram just side by side with him. Ryan Jacobs needs to use as much ERS as he can. He's defending the inside, but down the inside Takubi can go. He wants to try and go for an outbreak. Side by side they go, and we have a great view from the inside of Denis Kamensky. Takubi now side by side he goes. He seems to be just ahead of Ryan Jacobs. Ryan Jacobs has to try and outbreak him. Still on the inside, he has a little tap from Denis Kamensky to try to push him through. Takubi is up ahead. There goes Gabriel Moya around the outside, and Denis Kamensky's dropped back a little bit. Moya now in P4, but Takubi has managed to get ahead of Ryan Jacobs and taking the race lead.
This is a chaotic end to this race, and all of a sudden, it's championship contenders racing together in towards pit back we go. Tom Wolfgram sends the dive, pushing Ryan Jacobs wide. Denis Kamensky gets around Gabriel Moya as well. They're all looking to battle here as wide goes one of the Aston Martins. That is Josh Rothwell sent tumbling down the order. Gabriel Moya now right onto the back of Ryan Jacobs as we head onto the back straight here. Tom Wolfgram looking to try and retake that win. Potentially, he's only half a second off of the back of Takubi, and this could be detrimental to Ryan Jacobs' championship hopes. Here comes Gabriel Moya around the outside of Blanchimont. That is not a place where you usually see overtakes being made, but this could change things very, very quickly. As Invasizo fighting here with Tom 97 as well in the bus stop chicane. Josh Rothwell getting involved as well as we head down towards turn number 1. Denis Kamensky around the outside on Ryan Jacobs, and now Ryan losing positions compared to where he was before the safety car. This is devastating stuff. Still battling further back as well. Invasizo fighting with Josh Rothwell as they run down towards Eau Rouge. The Aston Martin just putting himself marginally ahead as they head in towards the corner, gets himself through as they head up on towards the Camel Straight. Micah retiring on the final lap of this race, but Tom Wolfgram to take the lead of this race and to try and bring himself back into championship contention. Ryan Jacobs still fighting with Denis Kamensky. He's going to try and hang on to this one, but it's not going to work out. Giovanni Galeotto on the back of him as well as they head in towards turn 8. Could be looking to try and take this one away and drop Ryan Jacobs a further position down. Tom 97 also not too far back. Could be looking to fight with his teammate here. Galeotto to the inside into No Name corner. Gets himself alongside and ahead of Ryan Jacobs now. P6 for the championship leader. Things starting to fall apart on this final lap.
Things starting to fall apart indeed, as Gabriel Moya is now trying to amp up the pressure on Takubi ahead. Tom Wolfgram is gone. He's going to get that race win if he doesn't make any mistakes. Ryan Jacobs still under heaps of pressure from his teammate Tom 97 behind. But Gabriel Moya wants to get another step on that podium onto Takubi. The gap is 3 tenths. Let's go on board with the man that got the overtaken last lap out in Blanchimont. This time he has to do it in the bus stop chicane. How much can he gain? He's still got a little bit of battery left. Takubi is already battery battery saving. Where does Gabriel Moya go? Round the outside, and the bus stop chicane he wants to go. Side by side, the kickstoppers go. Very late braking. We switch to the race cap view. It looks like Gabriel Moya's done it. Tom Wolfgram wins the race ahead of Gabriel Moya. Denis Kamenski gets P4 and Ryan Jacobs gets P6 as we cross the line. But what a hectic final 2 laps it was. And the championship dream is alive. Tom Wolfgram gets 2 in a row.
That was an incredible ending to the race, and I'm not sure if you caught it. There was contact between a couple of drivers coming across the line. I think they just made it across the line, but somebody did actually lose a wheel in the middle of the start-finish right there. But yeah, incredible turnaround for the championship here. P1 for Tom Wolfgram, P6 for Ryan Jacobs, and that is really, really going to shake things up now.
It really will indeed. So let's go to the full results with Tom Wolfgram getting your race win ahead of Gabriel Moya. Then it's Takubi in 3rd, Denis Kamenski in P4, then it's Giovanni Galeotto. He started P18 and is in P5. Ryan Jacobs P6, the best he could do after that restart. Tom 97 in P7. Then it's Impreciso, Josh Rothwell and Alessandro Finn picking up your final point here ahead of Bennett Hader, Formula Kai, Victor Garcia, Franek Yeziorni, and behind that, we find Kasper Jędrzejczyk, Pesci, Demaiko, Diego Ferrer, Sidley Slyguy, and Jonas Orpel. But for the championship, at least, this means I think Impreciso is still marginally in it, but only just. Bennett Hader, I think, mathematically is out, but Ryan Jacobs has lost quite some ground to Tom Wolfgram and Takubi, and the fight will continue on into next week.
Yeah, I was very briefly looking at the standings. I'm not sure what the gap will be to Takubi now. However, the gap between P1 and P2, and I believe it'll be P2 now, it's only 15 points. It's come down quite dramatically between Tom Wolfgram and Ryan Jacobs. 15 points, less than a race win now between the top 2 in the championship. It's still going to take a big effort, but Tom Wolfgram definitely with the momentum as it stands, still definitely has an opportunity to win the championship here.
Yeah, if the results stay as they are, Tom Wolfgram will move up into 45 points. Ryan Jacobs will go from 55 to 60, so that gap will be 15 points. For Takubi, with his P3, he's going to pick up 10 points. That puts him on 38, so he'll be 22 points behind. Bennett Hader will stay stuck on 25 points. The gap will be 35 points. He'll be out of the championship fight. Mario Zenowan, who did not participate, will be 37 points behind. He'll be out of it. Impreciso's picking up merely 3 points, will be on 23, 37 behind, will be out of that championship fight as well. And I'm currently just checking where we have Gabriel Moya. He was on 6 points. He's going to pick up 12, will be 18, so he's not within the championship fight either. So it looks like we've narrowed down the championship fight, Josh, if the result stands as they are, to 3 drivers. Takubi, Tom Wolfgram, and your championship leader, Ryan Jacobs. But with these points, Josh, with these 5 points, he crucially at least moves ahead of Oliver Knott, who was promoted already, and can now actually call himself championship leader.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very unlikely scenario, a very unlikely scenario, but theoretically, Oliver Knott could have still won this championship when he did leave. Now, not the case, obviously. But yeah, I think a very exciting way to end this one. And there was quite a few moments of contact throughout that race, so there still could be penalties that shake things up. That could even bring the championship closer together. We don't know how things are going to turn out, of course. But yeah, what a race we've had here in Spa.
Yeah, quite a race indeed, and it looked like Ryan Jacobs was doing quite well throughout that race indeed, but that late safety car truly shifting things up tons, and that has caused him to lose some extra points to Tom Wolfgram, who did everything right that he could tonight. And 2 race wins in a row, that is a way to get yourself back into that championship fight. With 2 races to go and 15 points. We might be hearing from him later on as well, as we're now going to move on to the interviews. Tom Wolfgram said that he might be available. Gabriel Moya is already for us in the waiting room. I'm not sure if we're going to speak to Takubi, but let's go over to our driver interviews and move in Gabriel Moya. And there we have him already. Gabriel Moya has been moved in to the comms box. He's managed to get a great pole position tonight for the Spa race. It was a tough race all the way through, but that safety car surely shook things up quite a bit.
Yeah. I think I get a little bit unlucky with the safety car because I had a good pace, and I think I will catch up two guys in front, but they had a really good pace, so and Tom deserved it to win. So GG to them, and and I'm really happy with my pole position because it's the qualification. It's not my favorite exercise. I'm really bad at that. So putting a pole on F4, I'm really happy with that. So it's a good result overall. So I'm happy.
Yeah, because prior to this, you of course had a fastest lap in the race in Baku, where you also finished in P5. Now with a P2 and a pole position, you move from 6 points to 19 points, putting yourself up quite close to the top 10 in the table. But yeah, qualifying, just to go back to that, a 10th on all of your competitors. That was a really good lap.
Yeah, a really good lap. Really good lap. All, or not maybe all, but I think all the sectors were really good and really decent, so I'm happy with that. And yeah, I was quite surprised with the pole, but yeah, when I saw the times, I understand why, so yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, and then throughout the race, of course, the first pit stop was already a key moment. You decided to stay out a little bit longer than the other drivers because they had to overtake the backpack. But after that, you found yourself in P5. You did have a lot of overspeed, but I think you must have been at least slightly disappointed that you were just behind or in the midst of that overtaking pack.
Yeah, I was like, because exiting the pits they had more speed and maybe more battery, so in the straight I couldn't do anything, but yeah, I wanted to go one lap more because this track is so long that the tire wear is so big, and the difference between one laps and two laps it's huge. So like with the training I did, I know that at the end the difference will turn in my favor, so that's why I tried that. But with the safety car at the end, my strategy didn't work. But yeah, at the end I have P2, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and especially alongside that, the final 2 laps, you managed to get some great overtakes as well. One around the outside of Blanchimont to take P3, and then into the bus stop chicane on the final lap to take P2. Those must have been some great overtakes for you.
Thank you. Yeah, good overtakes.
Then quickly moving over to Josh. Any questions for Gabriel Moya?
Yeah, now looking back, seeing how everything played out, seeing when the safety car came, do you think maybe it would have played off a bit better to have pitted a bit earlier in that race, maybe going around lap 13, 14 like some of the other drivers did?
Yeah, I think with what happened after the race, yeah, for sure, it would be better to follow Tom and and box lap 13. But yeah, I tried and I failed, but it's how we learn. So that's good and okay.
Yep. And next week, Abu Dhabi. How are you feeling around there? Is that a track that you think you're going to go well at?
Yeah, I think I can do a good result. I'm gonna put a lot of time training to try to get back on the podium and also do a good quali. So I'm gonna push and do what I know to try to get some good points for the next rounds.
Yep. Well, great job today. Congratulations on the P2.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations indeed on that first podium of the season, and of course the first pole position for you as well this season. And hopefully we will see you in the comms box again either next week or the week after.
Yeah. Have a nice weekend, guys.
You too. And with that, that leaves us just one interview. That is, of course, the interview with our race winner, and now also hot in the driver's seat to still take the fight to Ryan Jacobs. Let's move in, Tom Wolfgram. And here he is already, our race winner, back-to-back race winner, and now, if results stand as they are, only 15 points behind our championship leader, Ryan Jacobs. Tom, you must be feeling amazing.
Yeah, of course. It was a pretty nice race. Pace was good in quali and in the race. Yeah, happy to get the back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, all the way through, you've had a great qualifying session, starting the race in P2, had a great pit stop sequence, managing to fight that out with Denis Kamensky. Then, of course, that safety car came out. You went into the pits, turned out to be the right decision, and after you got the overtakes done, it seemed like you had some smooth sailing to that finish line, but it must have been a lot more difficult than how it looked.
Yeah, of course it was. I mean, we was on the soft tires, and Ryan and Tishubi stayed out for the on the old mediums, 3 and 6 laps they had, and yeah, it was hard, but I knew that I can do it again. First overtake against Ryan Jacobs, it was hard, but my opinion, it was fair. And yeah, Tishubi was on the DRS straight, and yeah, it was easy then to get this win at home.
Yeah, to get that win indeed, it propels you up quite nicely because you now move from 29 to 45 points. So yeah, as I said, if the results stay as they stand, 15 points with 2 races to go, you're well within this championship fight, Tom.
Crazy, yeah. Crazy turnaround. I was never hoping for that. But yeah, it is what it is, and I will fight for it. Two races left in Abu Dhabi and in Jeddah. I will try my best for that, and maybe I can win it, but it's really hard because Ryan is a really good driver, and also the other drivers are in it. So yeah, it will be hard for the last 2 weeks.
Well, it will definitely always be hard. But did anything change in those last 2 weeks that has managed to get you up so close with the championship?
I don't know. I mean, in Singapore, I was never hoping for that win. The early safety car in Singapore was the key. And tonight, as I said last week, Belgium is one of my favorites. So podium was the goal, win is the bonus.
That sounds great. Well, Josh, any questions from your end?
Yeah, I mean, of course, a really great drive from you here today. I just want to touch on the next 2 weeks for you. Abu Dhabi, is it a track that you think you can go win at and get a 3 in a row?
Not in the quali. In the race, I have pace, but I would say not for the podium. Maybe I set my goal for the top 5 or top 6. I would be happy with that. Yeah, and Jeddah, pace is good there. I need only a good qualifying, and the race pace is every race there.
Yeah, and then of course, just looking into these final 2 races. In the last 2 races, you've closed 22 points on Ryan Jacobs. Do you think it's possible to continue like that and take the championship? How are you feeling about that?
It is possible, but it's hard.
Yeah, well, best of luck for yourself. Of course, 2 more races to go. 15 points is the gap, and hopefully, for your sake, you are able to close that and take the championship.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, once more, congratulations on that race win, and hopefully we will see you again in the comms box in the weeks to come.
I hope so. Thank you for commentating, and have a good night.
You too. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, and with that, we have concluded our interviews for tonight. What Josh, in the end, turned out to be a very exciting final few laps to this Belgian Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, a late safety car, people with full batteries for 2 laps of racing, desperate to make the moves, a couple cars staying out as well, trying to hang on to some track position. It's always going to give you some great action, and that's what we love to see here.
That is what we love to see indeed. And on that note, we will be ending the stream for tonight as well. But definitely don't go anywhere, because this championship fight just got much more interesting. The gap was 26 points. Now with 2 races to go, it is only 15 points. As next week we head to the IAS Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi for round 9 of this 10-round championship here at PSGL season 42. This was round 8 for tonight in F4. See you all next week again for round 9. Good night.